Apple is rising in the pre-market on those better-than-expected results driven by record revenue from services. iPhones down 12 from a year ago and now represent less than half of quarterly revenue for the first time in about 7 years, Jim. That was one of the big headlines last night.
Yeah, but the headlines today in the papers are really rather staggering. New York Times, Apple reports declining profits and stagnant growth again. The Wall Street Journal quotes a fellow by the name of Richard Cramer, completely no relation, by the way. It's not a matter of it, but when Apple gets hit in China. Were these people on the same call? Maybe they were on a different call. They were on the rotten Apple call. I was on the straight Apple call. I heard a situation where you were going to, if you actually think out in the out years, it's a service company with the best customer satisfaction there is. And when you get an appliance, of which they're about 1.5 billion in, you're beginning to take either Apple Cloud or Apple Music or the App Store. You're looking at the ads. I think you'll be looking at the credit card starting tomorrow. And then healthcare. When I talked to Tim Cook, I was saying, listen, why not slap a $10 charge on all these things that save your life from the watch? And he said, well, everything's to come. So I wrap it all up by saying the Apple that we see now was the first quarter of many where we're going to figure out what that revenue stream, the service revenue stream, is really valued at. And then we're going to put not a Procter & Gamble multiple one, which is the 24. That's the razor already. But let's give it a discount. Let's say it's 20%. Procter & Gamble growing at 4. This thing growing, wearables growing at 50. Service revenue growing at 18. How can I not give it a higher multiple than Procter? But I won't, because stupidly, this company continues to be followed by people who want it to be ServiceNow, Salesforce, VMware,
sure,
Workday. They want. I mean, Ann Lindblad was talking about Atlassian. I mean, those companies are selling it a gazillion times earnings.
Right.
That's a bad compare.
But how can you rely on services growth when services are tied to the unit base, right? And if that's slowing, how do we get the acceleration?
Okay, so there's 400 million plus subscriptions. There'll be 500 million subscriptions. They don't tell us, look, I take 4 subscriptions, so they don't tell us how many people are subs like we want from cable. We get what the sub growth is. The actual sub growth is number of people. We multiply, we come up with the long-term value of those people. And that's how we do it. We say that just like a credit card person from Capital One, no, maybe not just Capital
maybe not
One.
Capital One.
A J.P. Morgan credit card person, you look at how many people keep it and what they're worth. And Mike Corbett would do this and say the lifetime value of that Citi holder is X. And that's how we're going to view Apple, the lifetime value of a subscriber. And once we do that, given the 99% customer satisfaction, we'll have it. Now, when I laid that out to Tim Cook and Luca Maestri, Maestri's a fabulous CFO. When I laid it out, as Josh knows, crickets. They're not there yet, but I will get them there. I will get them there. And what I need is just one analyst who covers Clorox, a 2% grower, to cover Apple.
Yeah.
And we'll get a 260 price tag. 260.
You've been trying to get Apple in a different basket for a while.
I got him to do the service revenue.
You do believe that this was a transitionary quarter from iPhone to ecosystem?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. And that's how I get a 260. That's a 20 multiple on next year's numbers. 20 multiple, still a discount to every single packaged good company. But how can you not, if you tip it to where revenue is a recurring stream, you cannot keep that multiple down. You cannot continue to give it a 16, 17 multiple.
Katie Huberty did complain that one of the letdowns was that App Store growth did not translate into total services acceleration.
Well,
right?
I mean, look, I think Katie was using 16% growth. If you back out the 247 million one time, and you include the 300 basis points, President Trump, please notice, stronger dollar, 300 basis points, you do get to 18. Okay, was there a certain stream that may not be that good? I'll tell you this. I get that Apple credit card August 1. And there's a revenue stream of which all the real costs are borne by Goldman. Suboptimal if you're Goldman, but,
sure.
But hey, Solomon, CEO, assures me.
Who's got the leverage here?
Right, assures me not to worry. And then, look, I mean, are you going to, that hacker from Capital One, that was like an Amy Winehouse story. I mean, Jesus.
The more we learn, the more troubling it is.
Okay, yeah, she had issues.
Yeah.
She had issues.
Troubled and bragging about, reportedly, about some of her activities.
That does lower the value of credit card. I'm not kidding. That lowers the value of credit card because she hacked into the best single web service company there is. But put it all together, Carl, and you need to find a person in the Procter world who really emphasizes technology. And if Corbat or Jamie or any of these first-name guys, you know, if you get David to do it, James, and they switch coverage. James should make it so that Katie covers it with someone. Oh, no, they're very critical about Proctor. Let's switch firms. You get the point.
Yeah.
Someone has to do joint coverage. Service revenue stream should be covered by a consumer
It's part
product.
of your thesis. It's a consumer products company now.
Again, when I bounce this off Tim and Luca, they're not there yet. They're just, I'm closer and closer.
Yes. Then there's, of course, the iPhone guidance and the guidance about China. Tim Cook talked about this last night. Take a listen.
We saw significant improvement compared to the first half of fiscal 2019 and return to growth in constant currency. We experienced noticeably better year-over-year comparisons for our iPhone business there than we saw in the last 2 quarters, and we had sequential improvement in the performance of every category. The combined effects of government stimulus, consumer response to trade-in programs, financing offers, and other sales initiatives, and growing engagement with the broader Apple ecosystem had a positive effect.
So the take among a lot of analysts today is that that kind of commentary is good enough to tide you over until we get a 5G phone.
Of which he will not really talk about 5G, dodge that. So how does Richard Cramer, the distinguished Richard Cramer, whom I'd never heard of until today. No, that's wrong. He's probably, you know, for all I know, he's the only Cramer that really does matter. But he says this is when he says, it's not a matter of but when Apple gets hit in China. Now, you contrast that with what Tim Cook said. And it's just, I'm going with Cook, not Cramer. I'm going to put my money on Cook. By the way, all of the key wearables, pods, and everything, that was all invented after Steve Jobs. But it's important to note that Tim Cook's never come up with anything.
Yeah, well, you're right. One of the calls today is that wearables, home, and accessories are now bigger than iPad. So I think Citi makes the point that people are not appreciating the diversity of offerings.
Right. Now, who did come up with those? Was that under the regime of Jobs or Cook? Well, I mean, again, when is Cook going to get the benefit of the doubt? I'm giving him the big-time benefit of the doubt. And when he does start, I mean, I may be a little facetious, but he will charge for health care because he was always talking about how this saves lives. He will charge for the credit card. We know that. I think the biggest issue with the credit card, and I've said this to Solomon at Goldman, is that Solomon, it's like the old days, Solomon at Goldman. I said this to him. I said, listen, are you ready for the deluge of people who want that card? Because it's so easy to calculate. It's on your he tells me, it's just your regular statement. He is telling me that they're ready. I don't think anyone could be ready for what I think is going to happen with this credit card. I think it's going to be amazing.